We go downstairs and I'm walking back up the stairs and a gun goes off. I open the door, immediately as the gun goes off, and he had leaned on a rifle and the whole top of his head was gone. Seeing that it just broke me. I was in moderate drug use at the time. That was a triggering event that led me into several years in prison. A few days later, I was back to using drugs, obviously, trying to just stop my mind from seeing that scene over again. My initial drug use started was with a female. I remember the first time we did it, it was like this wave of euphoria that hit me. Like all of my problems weren't problems anymore. And we talked all night long about the dumbest things and had all these great ideas, and it was just such a great time that first time that I was like, this isn't so bad. Why did I hate it for so long? It became doing it a little more than the weekend to needing it every day. I would take money or I would take items to sell. I had rules, like I wouldn't inject it, I would only smoke it. Like I was like a high-class drug addict, right? As you're doing it and it's progressing, you don't realize what's happening to you. You're going from being a normal person to being somebody who's very conniving and sneaky. It's not intentional. I don't want to be that guy. They say that meth is not physically addicting and you don't get sick when you come off of it, but it feels like it is. It feels like if you don't have it, you're going to die or you're not going to make it the next day. So I can't function at all if I don't have it. It led to breaking into cars. I'm thinking to myself, I'm not hurting people. I'm just breaking into their cars and I'm taking whatever so I can survive, right? So because of that, they gave me a 15-year sentence.
Eric Johnson, welcome to the Roller Coaster Podcast.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here, man.
Looking forward to it.
You made the trek all the way from Vegas, drove out today, and I'm excited to have you. When I learned about your story, we have a lot of people reach out to the show to want to come on and share their story and be a guest. And, I think a lot of people that come on, they've gone through sort of one major life event, and the ones that we select, we tend to focus on that one major life event. And when you reached out and I said, tell me your story, you had a book that you sent over. I think you have
a little out, but yeah,
you had 30 different things that you sent over that could all be their own story. And so this is going to be unique and different in that, I think you've been through several lives. And, I don't know how you're still alive, first of all, and well, and here in front of me. That's a gift in and of itself. And so I look forward to just diving deep on some of these experiences that you've had and really helping the audience understand it, how you've gotten to such a good place, having gone through what you've gone through. So I want to kick this off. Halloween 2004, you had an experience that would ultimately change the course of your life. What do you remember about Halloween 2004 and the events of that day?
So I remember starting the day off. I think I was arguing with my girlfriend at the time. And I had reached out to some people to just try to, because I was going through some things. I was in moderate drug use at the time. I had been distant from a lot of my really close friends. I had some really good friends named David, Josh, these guys I've known most of my life, and I was so distant because I was in and out of drug use with the girl. That's how my initial drug use started, was with a female. But, I wanted to make a change, and I had gotten in touch with my friend David, and they were just so happened to be having a party that night at his house, and he invited me over, told me to come over. I was going to start staying with him. They just got a house, and I was going to stay there, and I was going to, go back to work. And, I'm young at the time. I think I'm 20 years old. So, I've held a bunch of little jobs, but nothing really crazy. And, we start the night off. I get over there, right? There's people coming in and out. I'm talking to people. It feels good. I feel like a normal person again. And we're having a lot of fun. And, I remember David, now we're 20, so I don't know who got alcohol for the party, but there's alcohol at the party, and we're drinking and stuff. And David, I'm like on his hip the whole time because he's like, I haven't seen anybody in a long time, and I just want to be like, I want to fit back in. So I'm hanging with him. He splits for a minute and he comes back and he's really, really upset. And I'm talking to him, and he's like, I just caught my girlfriend cheating. I need to go for a walk, and I'll be right back. And I guess he took Valium. So he took some Valium and took off into the desert. He comes back from the desert and is punching walls. He's really upset. He broke his hand. We're wrapping his hand up. I'm trying to talk him down. And, this is the day I'm trying to get sober, and I'm here dealing with this chaotic stuff. And, so I get him all set up and I lay him down for bed. There was a couple of us that had like laid him down in his room. We're like, you need to go to sleep, man. We kicked the girl out of the house, and we go downstairs, and I'm walking back up the stairs, and, a gun goes off. I open the door. I mean, immediately as the gun goes off, and he had leaned on a rifle, and the whole top of his head was gone. 2 seconds after I step into the room, 3 or 4 other guys that I know come in, and they're grabbing him, they're holding him. He's still got life in his eyes, and you just see it. You just see it fading, right? I looked at it, I screenshotted it, and I turned around and I walked out of the house and just started walking. Things were a little hazy after that. I called Josh, another one of our friends, to tell him what happened. And it just so happened that the girl I was dating and fighting with was with them that night. And they all thought I was lying because, that's what you do when you're on drugs, right? But I hung the phone up, I turned it off, and I just kept walking. And I don't really remember where the rest of the night took me. I know that I ended up in some pretty bad places shortly thereafter. That was a triggering event that led me into several years in prison. I can't really remember more details about that night besides after seeing fragments of his brain on the walls and on the ceiling. Like, I mean, I'm a kid, and seeing that really, really, it just broke me. But yeah, after that, I think a few days later, I was back to using drugs, obviously. And I was just running around with people using drugs, breaking into things, trying to just stop my mind from seeing that scene over again. It was a really, really short period of time after that. I ended up in prison, maybe a month after that. I was going to prison for the first time. I ended up in jail with a few felony charges, and they sent me up for 2 to 4 years. I remember sitting in the jail, and they almost released me. There was another man with the name Eric Johnson, and he was getting out, and they grabbed me thinking I was him and brought me downstairs to release me. I'm already sentenced to prison. And I get downstairs, and they realize their mistake and take me back up. But for that moment on, everybody in the unit had looked at me very strangely, like I went down there to go talk about somebody or do something. So my initial last few weeks in that jail were really, really high stress. I was watching my back. I just went from watching my friend kill himself to watching my own back and having to just make sure that I survived, moving into knowing that I was going to prison, another situation that I didn't know if I was going to survive. You hear the stories, people in prison, you can get killed or whatever. So I was like 140 pounds at the time, really small. I had a tough guy persona, but I was scared to death. And, I eventually, that led to the first prison term. And I remember getting up there, and, my first day, they put me in a cell, they put me in a unit, and, this guy walks up to me. He's this big bald dude, and he has a knife. And he's like, I need you to hide this for me. I mean, my first day. And I'm like, yeah, man, no problem. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So I take the knife and I hide it and I put it in my mattress. And I'm just, trying to be a part of the guys, right? So I can survive in there. And a few minutes after that, they're coming around with metal detectors. Like, and I'm like, oh, they do find it wherever you put it. So now I'm scared. I don't know what to do. Um, and just so happens that there was a guy in the unit who knew me, and he comes down the stairs. I told him what happened, and he's like, "Oh, no, you need to get that out of there now. He was just using you as a like a target, to get it off of him." He's like, "You're going to give that to me, and I'm going to give it back to him." But I literally almost ended up going and spending my entire prison sentence in the hole just to try to be a part of the group. But I did that. I think I'm there for about 25 days, and they ship me to minimum security. And I call my family and I talk to them, and my grandparents aren't doing very well. I make a commitment to them. I'm not going to use drugs anymore. I'm going to get my life together while I'm here. I'm going to work. So I start training up there. I start working out. I got sober when I went to jail, and I stayed sober the entirety of my term. It was easy. I mean, drugs were around, but it was easy. I worked out the entire time. I fought fires all over the state of Nevada. I remember we would have to carry chainsaws up and down these mountains, and people would bring us cookies and food and all that for saving their homes. Felt like real people again, right? It was a really, really good feeling. That the prison term was brief. It was all camp, very, very easy stuff. There's no real violence up there. It's just a bunch of guys trying to get out of there. Most of the people are down to their last couple of years, and I did it pretty quickly. But right before the end of it, I called home, and both my grandparents had passed within the same week of each other. I was really close with my grandparents. I loved them very much, and I never got to say goodbye. It's tragic. And I really, really I felt really bad about it. And I was like, when I get out of here, I'm going to do the right thing. So, that obviously didn't happen, but
yeah. When you were, how much of the way that you were raised growing up, like how much of that had an influence on you ultimately being introduced to meth at 17 and then quickly thereafter becoming, an addict? Like how much of that do you chalk up to the way that you were raised as a child?
So my dad, before I was born, had a problem with alcohol. My mom gave him an ultimatum, like either you quit drinking or you go. And he quit drinking. And that was the end of it. So I never saw my dad drunk. But he had that in him, growing up, my brother was in and out of treatment. It's a thing called Daytop in New York. I don't remember what his drug of choice was, but there was a problem there somewhere. So I knew about addiction. And because of that, I was very adamant that I would never become an addict. So I was raised really well. Both of my parents were very hard workers. My father was an amazing human being, that rare breed of old school values. He came from a very, very hard life. He faked his father's signature at 17 to join the military to get out of an alcoholic home. He went to Vietnam. He was just a really hard scale, tough man, but he raised me right. I think it was my need for attention and popularity that led me to so easily fall into drug use. Cause the minute I did it, the minute it was in my system, everything that I was raised with went out the window. So it didn't matter how well they raised me. My thinking went completely to how do I get more of this? And what do I got to do to get more of this? Right. I didn't like drugs at all. If the people that I knew growing up, would tell you that, I was the last person they would think would end up in the situations that I ended up in. But, they never knew me the minute I tried to use drugs. So once that happened, my brain clicked, and everything I was ever taught went out the window. I do remember when I was young, always fighting for my brother's attention. Like he was like my idol. And because he was, in and out of whatever addiction he had, he was really distant. So like I always fought for attention there. And I think that kind of led to that later in life where like I needed the attention everywhere I went. In middle school and high school. Like I got expelled from high school at 17 for a year after the Columbine shooting. Somebody called in a bomb threat at our school, and I told everybody, "Why are we here? Why don't we leave?" And the whole school walked out, and they kicked me out of school for saying that. So, I was just an attention seeker. I had to have everybody on my team or liking me, and that transitioned definitely heavily into my drug use for sure.
I think there's, I'm wearing this shirt and this hat that say levels. And I think there's levels to, we talked about levels to fragrances before this podcast even started, but there's levels to everything, including drug addiction, right? So maybe help paint the, reality of the depth of drug addiction that you got into. Do you have a story or two that, kind of brings up how deep you had really gotten into this?
Oh yeah. It transitioned. It's so weird how it transitions. So I remember when we first started, initially the girl I was dating at the time, we would go out and we would drink and stuff. And her argument with me was like, that's all we do. It's no fun. Let's do something a little more exciting. And I'm like, I don't want to do anything more exciting. I'm cool. I know what that stuff leads to. And I would say that, but God, I liked her so much. Right. And, and I wanted her to like me too. So she was really good at making me feel like she didn't like me a lot of times. So one day I agreed to use meth. That was what we were going to do. And, I had tried other things. I'd had like a pill here or there. I had tried cocaine like once or twice. And I was like, I always beat myself up over those things. So I didn't let it become a thing. But I remember the first time we did it, we were at her friend's house, and it was like this wave of euphoria that hit me. Like all of my problems weren't problems anymore. And we talked all night long about the dumbest things and had all these great ideas. And it was like, it was just such a great time that first time that like, I was like, this isn't so bad. Why did I hate it for so long? Why was I so against people who used it? Because we were having such a good time. And it was just, in the beginning, it was like a once a week thing. So we would do it, go about our lives, do it. And then I started being like, well, why don't we do it like, a little more than the weekend? And, it became doing it a little more than the weekend to needing it every day. And it wasn't so bad in the beginning of needing it every day. I could still semi-function, but then I started to find myself being like sneaky. It started to change my thinking. I would stay in my room being really quiet because I was up all night, so nobody would hear me, and I would wait till everyone left in the morning, and I would get up and do things, and I would if I didn't have any money, I would take money, or I would take items to sell. Like I started finding myself doing these sneaky little liar thief things, just to get more stuff to get high. But I had rules. Like I wouldn't inject it. I would only smoke it. Like I was like high class drug addict, right? It's just strange. I'll get into more of that later when it comes to the crime and my thinking. Mm-hmm. But as you're doing it and it's progressing, you don't realize what's happening to you. Like you're going from like being a normal person to being somebody who's like very conniving and sneaky, and like it's not intentional. Like I don't want to be that guy, but it's the only way I'm going to get what I want, because if I don't have enough to get by through the day, I'm not going to make it through the day, or at least my brain's telling me that. Yeah. So, they say that meth is not physically addicting, and like you don't get sick when you come off of it, but it feels like it is. I mean, it feels like if you don't have it, you're you're going to die or you're not going to make it the next day. So like I can't function at all if I don't have it. And that's what it started turning into. There was a point in time where I had came clean to my parents about the drug use, and they gave me an ultimatum, and they were like, you need to go to the military. And so I signed up for the Army. I took the ASVAB test. I scored in the top 99 percentile, and they were going to give me a job in the radar technician field. And the day they came to pick me up, I told them no. I wish I would have went. I didn't. And, I look back on that. But a few weeks later, I decided to go to the Air Force, and I went to the Air Force. So I got sober. I went to the Air Force, and I went through boot camp, and I went through job training. And the minute I came home, I went back to the girl and back to the drugs. As soon as I found her, I was right back to the drugs because my brain went to that euphoria that I had that first time with her. And I can remember my first sergeant calling me like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't think I'm going to make it back." And for whatever reason, I did not get a dishonorable discharge. I deserved one. I got a general discharge, which allowed me to have some level of veterans benefits, even though, I probably don't deserve them. But, it's just the minute and the minute I used again, when I came back, I was right back where I ended. So the last day that I used to the first day I used again were identical. There was no, like, I started over. The first day I used again, my thinking went right back to like, okay, what are we going to do to get more of this? Because we're going to run out of money quick. So how are we going to get money? And, at that point, I'm a little bit older. The people that I know that are using have like schemes and ways of doing it. And, it led to, I think my first start of crimes was like breaking into cars. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm not hurting people. I'm just breaking into their cars, and I'm taking, whatever so I can survive. Right. It's not about them. It's about me, obviously, because that's just how my brain's thinking. And, I remember taking like checks from somebody's thing, and I wrote a check to myself and went to go cash it. And the bank teller looks at it, and they're like, hold on one second. And they go and they call the cops, and they arrest me. So I go to jail for writing a bad check. When they picked me up, I had meth in my pocket. So I get a felony for the meth and a felony for the check. And that's what ended me up, in prison. I was on probation for those things initially. And then I broke into another car, and they gave me prison time for all 3 felonies. And that was my first 2 years in prison.
Yeah. Talk to me about that experience. I think a lot of people listening to this will never sniff a jail cell or a prison cell. What are maybe some of the misconceptions that your everyday Joe wouldn't understand about the realities of prison?
I mean, the biggest thing about it is just so utterly boring. There's just so many moments where like the world is moving and you're just stuck. And that's the hardest thing to deal with. There, of course, there's violence, and there's drug use and there's all those things. But like the biggest part of it is like adapting to a world of nothing. We go every day. It's wake up, eat breakfast. It's a routine of things that lead to nothing. I'm getting nowhere. I'm just doing day by day by day, and every day is the same thing over and over and over. And it's so repetitive, and that's why a lot of people like work out. Obviously I did a lot of that when I was in there. A lot of reading. I've probably read 300 or 400 books, trying to educate yourself. I mean, there's a lot of very intelligent people behind those walls, but there's, also a lot of people who aren't, right. I think the biggest thing now, if you stay out of the way, out of the politics and out of, you can't completely stay away from that. You have to segregate yourself in one way or another. I have to stay with the white people or, you know what I mean? Or I'm going to have problems. So, that's just how you stay. But, it did mean I couldn't have friends, all over the place. but I also had to do things, I mean, I remember one time, I was asked to, there was a guy, there was tobacco being brought in by like an officer or something. And there was a guy who had told the other officers about it, and they wanted me to take care of that guy. That was what I had to do, and then I could be fine. So I did. I hurt him pretty bad. I remember I came in behind him, I hit him, and then I hit pretty hard, and I hit him. I broke my hand on the back of his head. And I was put in solitary for that. This is not my first term. This is my second term. But yeah, I was put in solitary for 2 years over that. I was in I don't know, 8x10 for 2 years. I never left it. I didn't go to the showers. I would shower in my cell. I just stayed in that one room for 2 years. Yeah. I remember they would ask us if we wanted to go outside the yard, and it was in the supermax prison. So when you wanted to go outside, they would just leave you in the snow for 6 or 7 hours, and I wasn't doing that. So I just stayed inside every day.
What kind of thoughts are you having when you're in solitary confinement for 2 years straight? I mean, what's going through your head? And how many times did you just think, there's a wall there, and I'm going to just bash my head into this wall until that's it?
The anxiety is really, really, really high in the beginning of it. Like, you pace a lot. There's a lot of like, how did I let my life get to this? Will I ever be able to recover? My life is over. This is it. Everybody else is going to have a good life and I'm not. I mean, all in all, I lost all of my 20s to the penitentiary. But that especially up there too, it's so quiet, and like there's a little window and you can look out and it's just dark, like inside of the tier, and you can see other people like conversing. But after a couple of weeks or a month of doing that, you just adapt to it, and like you accept that this is what you have to do every day to survive. So you get up at whatever time you get up. I think I would get up at 6 a.m. or I'd eat breakfast. I'd go back to sleep for 2 hours. I would get up. I would make a cup of coffee. I would do 1,000 push-ups. I would do some other kind of workout. I would shower at my sink. And then I would turn my TV on, and then I would eat dinner, and then I would make a snack, and then I would go to bed. And that would be my day every day over and over again. But you get so used to it because you're telling yourself like, this is how I survive, right? The suicidal thoughts and all that stuff is always in the beginning. But after a while, you adjust to it. I think they would bring us the phone like once a week, and I would call home. And those days were the hardest, because then all of a sudden I realized that there's a world outside of here, because you try to forget about the world outside. In that facility, I did not end up with a lot of mail or a lot of phone calls. So it was a lot of time by myself. I didn't have any visits while I was there. I didn't see anybody. So the 2 years up there were probably the hardest. I mean, the loneliness is insane. And then you talk to your neighbor a little bit. There's like a little crack in the door. You can talk to them. But the only time that I actually like was comfortable was football season, where I could watch the games. So that's what I would look forward to every week. I'd have a football game every week, every Sunday.
Did you only get a certain amount of time to watch the TV?
No. I could turn the TV on all day long. I had my own TV inside with me, because we're in a cell. We can't leave the cell, so you have the TVs inside the cells. So I would turn, but again, I had like a thing where I wouldn't turn it on until I did what I had to do, and it was like a treat for myself to watch TV, because I was trying to program myself into the thinking of like, this is how my day goes. If you structure it a certain way, the day goes by really quickly, and boom, we're on to the next one. Yeah, and we're on to the next one.
There any habits that you formed in the penitentiary that you still
absolutely
do in your life? Like what?
This is one I focus on a lot. Every time I go to the gym and I go to the water fountain, there's 2 water fountains side by side. I turn my back so I'm in the corner, and I drink from it from the side so I can see everybody. I swear. Like, so nobody can come up behind me. Yeah. I did that yesterday. I was in the gym yesterday and I did it and I go, man, you still do this. I just can't stop. I've always I'm always hyper aware of everywhere I am. My girlfriend and I were it was 4th of July last year and we couldn't really find anywhere good to watch the fireworks. And we're driving down one of the main roads in Vegas, and I'm like, oh, there's a Wet and Wild or like a water park, but there's an open parking lot, and down the road is one of the casinos letting off the fireworks. So I'm like, let's park in this open parking lot. So we park in the open parking lot, and it's starting to fill up with people doing the same thing, and we're just standing there and we're waiting for the fireworks, and I hear something, and automatically I push her to the side, make her so she's safe, and I turn around. There's people like fighting, like they're about to pull guns on each other, and she had no idea any of this is happening. Like I knew right away. Like I'm hyper aware of any violence or any situation because I know exactly what to do and where to be and all that. But yeah, that definitely transitioned into my life a lot.
What sort of role did you play, before you went to the pen when you were with a bigger group? I mean, what were you known as in prison?
I was kind of the guy. I mean, I wasn't afraid to do anything. If I was asked to do it, I would just do it. It took a long time for me to stop being a people pleaser like that. That's initially what led to my longer prison sentence. I was just trying to make everybody like me, and I was just that guy who would do anything. This most previous term where I was going to go away for a long time, when I finally, everything clicked for me to get sober, I was doing some really high level, high risk stuff that was completely unnecessary just to be like that guy. So even the people that I'm hanging out with, are all like low level criminals. I'm like the high level big. I'm like somebody they fear or whatever. I think that was my thing. I like to be feared. I don't know why, but like I wanted people to look at me and be like, I don't want to mess with that guy, or that guy, is somebody that I need to stay away from. I always tried to keep that kind of tough guy mentality for a really long time. Only over the past few years did it really leave. But most people who really know me know that's not really who I am. It's like a persona I would wear. Maybe it's for safety, I guess.
Yeah.
Especially in prison, like you had to be a tough guy in there. I've been in many fights. But it wasn't always like that. It's not like there's a fight all the time. I mean, I've seen people get murdered. There's definitely violence, but that's not really the worst of it. Is what it does to the worst of it is like how it like just depletes you as a human and makes you feel so worthless. Like the day to day of doing nothing and the world moving on, and that was the worst to me. I mean, I did all my 20s. I was released at 30 and I was like, my life's over. I'm never going to accomplish anything. And, I mean, obviously that was a lie, but
Yeah.
you get so scared.
When you went back for the second time, you referenced this like high level operation that you were involved in.
Yes.
What happened there? How did you get so involved in that?
So I was out of prison for 6 months. I got a job in the Glazers Union and I was an apprentice glazer, really good paying job, opportunity for advancement, career job. And, the guys who I worked with would always go to the bar after work. And, I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm only a drug addict. I can go to the bar after work. Right. So, I started going to the bar after work, but alcohol's not enough for me. So ultimately within 6 months, I ended up back on meth. And when I ended up back on meth, I was the day I went to prison the first time, when I first got sober that time, I was back at that day. So automatically the crimes were increased. But now I knew a bunch of people from prison. So I'm talking to these people from prison that I'd done time with, and they're using too. So they're teaching me new crimes and all this stuff. And I'm hanging out with all these like high level crime guys. One of them had met these people who turned out to be the police, and they were like, yeah, we buy stolen cars. So he started selling them stolen cars. And I think there was like 36 people in this case. And they sold, I mean, they would just go, they found out these people were buying cars. So now all these people are just trying to steal as many cars as they can around town to sell them to these people who are actually the police. So the police are generating more crime in town by having these people know that they'll buy cars, right? So, I mean, they're not intentionally doing that. They're just trying to catch the people who are doing, but that's what ended up happening. They were trying to go get, I think they were getting Bentleys and Lamborghinis. And the car that I got in trouble for was actually a Corvette. But I was the passenger in the car while they sold that Corvette. I was the passenger in that vehicle. I got out. They asked me, they're like, oh, so you know about, I'm like, yeah, I know the car's stolen. I don't care. And because I said that, they gave me a 15-year sentence. I didn't steal the car. I had privy knowledge to it. But yeah, that was rough. However, I was already in prison while they were building that case. This incident happened. I had no idea that it was the police. They didn't book anybody right then and there. They just let everybody go to continue to get more people to bring stuff. I ended up getting in a high-speed chase and in a stolen F-150. And because somebody taught me how to steal an F-150, I learned how to do it. So I started, or F-250 or something.
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah,
you got to steal one if you know how.
Yeah, so that's what I did, right? and you know, and like in my head, again, I'm not physically hurting people. I'm just taking stuff. So it's like it can't be that bad, right? This is what my brain's telling me. And anyway, so I go to prison for 1 year, and while I'm there for that 1 year, oh, well, hold on, I got to talk about the case. So yeah, while I'm there for that 1 year, that's when that thing happened, and I got sent to the Supermax, where I was sitting in the hole for those years. So I think I only have a year. I don't care about going to the hole or any of that. I'll do this, and it won't be so bad. And then one day, they call me to go. I'm going down south to High Desert. I'm leaving the Supermax and going to High Desert, and they put me in High Desert in the hole there. And I'm actually neighbors with the lead singer from Fallen in Reverse at the time. For now, Ronnie. Ronnie's my neighbor, and I'm talking to him. I'm like, I don't know why I'm down here or what's going on. And they take me to court, and they tell me, you know, I got indicted for these stolen vehicles, and I have no idea. I don't know anything about it. And the attorney that I have is very new. She has no idea what's going on. And she's like, you got to give him information. I'm like, I'm not going to give him information. I'll get killed for that. I'm not giving information. That's absolutely out of the question. I'm not going to tell them anything that I know. It's out of the question. You know, survival 101. Don't do that. So she tells me that they're offering me the lowest they'll give me is 15 years. And I'm like, how? I'm 24 years old. And they're like, not 15 years. What I didn't know was that because they had made an MSNBC special with Chris Hansen before he did the Catch a Predator. It was called Vegas Undercover. And my mugshot goes across the screen on national television, and as being a part of this case for stolen vehicles. And because it had such national attention, the majority of the people, they wanted to give really high sentences to show that Vegas was very strict on crime and things like that. So even though I had minimal involvement in the crime itself, I had done so many other crimes that like karma was just getting me, right? That's the way I look at it now. I mean, then I felt like a victim, but obviously I wasn't. But yeah, so because of that, they gave me a 15-year sentence. And halfway through that sentence, I found out that it was illegal for them to do that because I was 25 the day they sentenced me, and the sentence they gave me was only eligible for people who committed the crime 25 or older. You had to be at least 25 years old to get it. It was called a habitual criminal. And I was 23 when it happened, 24 when I went to court, 25 when I was sentenced. By that time, they didn't care, though. I tried to fight it and ask them but they didn't care. I had to do the whole time. So, but yeah, that was my first television appearance. Was MSNBC. My mugshot. I look like a baby-faced kid scrolling across the screen.
So how much time did you end up spending that time?
That time's almost 7 years.
Yeah.
So I
you
did
got out
a
about
total
half.
I did about so on a 15-year sentence it's 5 to 15 years. I was already in for a little over a year. So and then they let me out a little after 5. So it ended up being almost 7 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was and then I had the 2.5 years prior. So I've got 10 years incarcerated, all my adult life. I mean, right now I've done half my adult life in prison and half my adult life out here. That's pretty much how it is.
Which one's better?
I mean, out here's a little bit better. I definitely went through a lot far worse things out here than I ever did in there.
Really?
But I had the opportunity to make choices out here that I didn't have there. You know, having somebody else control your life that's another big thing about being incarcerated. Where I mean, they're in control of everything that you do. You know, if they tell you to do something, you got to do it, and you got no say whether you want to do it or not. It's not like you can quit your job. You can't quit prison. You know, you can't quit being, you know, a ward of the state or whatever they want you to do. You got to do it. And it's within reason, you know, but it's definitely a difficult situation.
What do you think was like the defining moment where you finally made the decision after spending nearly 10 years incarcerated to just say, you know what, this isn't going to be my life moving forward?
Oh, that was when they gave me that 5 years. So prior to that 5 years, all of my prison time was like, I was trying to fit in and be, you know, kind of the tough guy thing. But when they gave me that 5 years and like I called my family and, you know, everyone was crying and I'm like, I thought my life was over. I decided like, you know, I'm going to try to do something with my life. And, I remember after they sent me back up north, I was up there for about 6 months and they sent me down south to a medium security place it had weights. You know, we had weights, we were able to go outside quite a bit. There was some, when I first came down there, cause I was still in that heavy prison mentality, there was sex offenders on that yard. And that's a big no-no. You know, that's a big thing. Like I'm I have personal beliefs on that. And I'm very, very adamant of like how much I dislike that. Child molesters, things like that. So when I found that out, I almost got myself sent back up to Ely, because we were like systematically beating them up and taking them out. Like we weren't killing anybody. We're making sure that they left and they went somewhere where they were way more uncomfortable than they were there. You know, we wanted them to be miserable. We felt like their crimes were far worse than ours. And there was about 4 or 5 guys and we systematically did it until they were all gone. But
what did that operation look like?
Anybody who lived in a unit with one of them was responsible for getting rid of them. And that was it. Any way they wanted to do it. I remember there was one, he was an older gentleman. He had raped his granddaughter and had a child with her. She was mentally challenged. It was disgusting. So I got all this I had no idea. The cop in the unit gave me this information and said, do with it what you will. And I'm like, well, you know what I'm going to do with it? You told me for a reason. So, you know, me and another guy waited for him to come back and we beat him up real bad. And just, we told him he had to go or else he wasn't going to make it out of there. And I'm not a killer. I'm not into that, but I definitely did not dispute the violence that we did on those people. Again, you know, people feel one way or another about, I'm very, very against, I mean, when it comes to children, it takes away their innocence. It takes away, you change the whole course of their lives. You know what I mean? It's just such a horrible thing. So we did what we did. But after that, I focused solely on educating myself and becoming better. That entire prison term, I didn't use drugs one time. It was everywhere. I mean, in prisons, it's everywhere. And I'm like, I could stay sober. It's easy. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But you know, I got into Toastmasters. I took drug treatment programs. I got a job. You know, I started giving myself a little bit of purpose. I started taking college level courses. I had already had a diploma, so I couldn't do, you know, high school stuff. At that point in time, they weren't offering the things that they offer now. They offer a lot of like job placement programs and things for people, which is amazing. But then like all you could do was, if you were in the higher levels, you could do educational stuff. So I think I tried to write a script one point, just anything to learn. I would read a lot of books, about anything about law. I learned a lot about law. I wrote my own motion. I wrote a motion to the courts to try to get my case back into the courts. They denied it, but I wrote it myself. I taught myself how to write it and wrote it. But that last 5 years was me trying to commit to not doing prison again in my life. I didn't realize, at that point in my life, like how much it would be a struggle later in life. Like, how much I have to commit to like making sobriety a part of my core, as opposed to like something that I'm doing, I'm just sober. But about 5 months, so I'm coming up on 30 or I am 30 and, like 7 or 8 months from coming home, 5 months before my parole date, on July 18th, my father passes. And like, I'd never gotten to develop that relationship with him. So I lost my grandparents while I was in prison. And now I lost my father while I was in prison. And he wrote me this letter like 3 months before he died. And in the letter, it was like, he had accepted that he was going to die at some point. And, he had said how he lived a life of duty and service, and it was a good life. And if he does pass, it's going to be okay. Don't let it kill you. I need you to take care of your mother. These are your responsibilities now. So when you're home, these are your responsibilities if I'm not here. And he like outlined all these things that I needed to do. And that was another thing. Like, wow, I really have to do this when I get out of here. Because as you get closer to going home, there's fears involved. Like, what if I screw up again? Where am I going to end up? Is this going to be the rest of my life? You start beating yourself up before you go home. So,
Yeah.
But that was incredibly traumatic for me. I think I broke down crying in front of like 200 guys, and I didn't care.
Yeah.
But at that point, crying in front of anybody as who I was and what I developed myself into at that point. There was no sign of weakness, even if I was crying, because that's the last place you want to cry is in prison.
Yeah.
But,
So are you sober now?
oh yeah.
How long have you been sober?
3 years.
3 years.
Yes, sir.
And do you think that you are staying sober more from the fear of going back to prison? Or do you think that you're staying sober because you have matured into a man that recognizes that sobriety is the only way?
I'm definitely not doing it out of fear.
Yeah.
I lost that a while ago. And believe me, I've got many things to fear. But no, being sober to me. So what I didn't realize was that it's not just the drugs that I'm an addict by nature. So with the gym, I'm in there 5 or 6 days a week. I am programmed.
You're addicted to the gym.
I'm addicted to the gym.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize. So when I got released from prison at 30 years old, the first girl I talked to was a bartender. And I'm like, well, I can drink. I'm only a drug addict. And I didn't realize that alcohol will lead me to that same path every time. It don't matter if it takes a week or it took 7 years or 8. I was released in 2014. I didn't relapse on harder drugs until 2020. So COVID was a big hit for me. But yeah, so but alcohol led me there eventually. I finally got to a point where alcohol led me there, and I didn't realize that until I was sitting in jail fighting for my life again. I was asking God for help. I was suicidal. And I was just sitting there, and I was just like, it's always because of a substance. I've never in my life in sobriety committed a crime or intentionally hurt somebody to an extreme level.
Yeah.
I've made mistakes. I've sped. You know, I've done things like that, but I've never like I'm the guy who's going to see the old lady and walk her across the street in sobriety. That's what I like to do. I like to help people. I like to give back. And it hit me when I was sitting there, like every problem that I have stems from drug use or alcohol. And when I finally realized that, I started looking at options. So now I'm looking at, you know, I'm sitting in the jail cell this time. This is in 2021 or 3 years would be, it's 2025. So it's 2022. I'm sitting in the jail cell and they're not going to let me out. I'm suicidal. I'm looking at 10 years. And I finally, like, it clicked what the problem was. And, but now, like, even if I find a solution, I'm going to be in prison for the rest of my life. So what's it matter if I find the solution, right? And through a course of events and like hard work, things ended up working out. But I think when I finally took those steps, so I'm a veteran, briefly, and I was fortunate enough to be put in a unit with other veterans. And in that same unit, there was a program called Hope for Prisoners. And there's this guy, John Ponder's his name, and he has this program in Nevada. And what it is like he takes people from being incarcerated or who are still incarcerated, and he tries to give them like purpose and like reconnect them with their families and help them find careers and like all these things to try to like better the community, right? And he's got like a 95% success rate. The guy's on his stuff. And I'm in this unit with these people, and it's like, you know, God's working in my life to the way where like he's given me an opportunity here to do the work and get there. And I don't see it yet. So, but I get to this unit and I'm like, what programs can I take? I need mental health help like crazy. What do you have? And I'm taking like relationship classes. I'm taking anger management. I'm taking drug classes. I'm learning about AA. I'm going to AA. I'm taking classes I'm not even supposed to be taking because I'm not in the Hope for Prisoners program, but I'm taking all of their programs. Relational health. There's mental health stuff. There's, what else did they have? MRT. I take all these classes. I think I took, in the year that I was in there fighting that case, I took like 437 classes. Like I took a class like 2 times, 3 times. I'm taking whatever's offered. I want it. And I'm doing the work. Like I'm not just taking the class and sitting there not listening. I'm participating. I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I'm not trying to be a tough guy. I want to figure this out because I want to be better. And, you know, and my daughter's out there growing up, and never in my life would I think I'd be in jail while I have a child. Like I'm supposed to be responsible for that child. And it just, every day I'm like, I got to change. And, I complete MRT, and, they have a graduation, and the chief of police comes. John Ponder for Hope for Prisoners comes. They bring us food. I haven't had food from the streets in a year. They bring us sandwiches, which is amazing. And they have all these like high level people. The news comes in, and now I'm on the news again, and it's a positive thing, right? So the news is talking to me about the accomplishments I had in jail while I'm incarcerated this time. And John Ponder says to the news, he's like, you know, I'm going to talk to the head district attorney and see if we can give these guys a chance, because nobody's done what they've done. Because what we had done was we had accomplished things that were all brand new. They'd never been accomplished before. We're supposed to be, what's the first person who does something like test subject, or I can't think of the right word.
Yeah, like the pioneers. Yeah,
pioneer, guinea pig, in a way, guinea pig. And so he talks to head district attorney, and you know, I'm looking at 10 more years, and that's it. And I'm 2 weeks from trial, and my attorney calls me and tells me, they're postponing your trial. You have a meeting with the head district attorney. And I'm like, what? It actually happened? They take me to this office, and they take me down these stairs, and they have to check me out of the jail. I never even knew they could do this. They check me out of the jail. And so I'm no longer an inmate of the jail for like 6 hours. And they walk me to this crazy office, and they chain me to the floor because they have, you know, attorneys and all that. And I'm physically within reaching distance. And I'm sure they brought other people down there who needed to be chained to the floor. I didn't, but, and they sit down and they just start laying into me and telling me, you know, on paper, you're horrible. You have done all these things. You were on national television for crime. You spent all these years in prison, but you have a gap here. But that doesn't mean anything to us. You're on paper. Your case is terrible. I was the case was bad. I had gotten to a point. So remember, I said I progressively got worse with the drug use. So when I relapsed, I was right back where I was. I was breaking into bars and stealing the slot machine boxes out of the bars because we have slot machines in Vegas. And because of COVID, they would close down. So I'd go in there at like 2 or 3 in the morning and I'd take all the slot machine boxes and take all the cash. And then I would go gamble every dollar of it and use drugs. But that was like high level stuff for Vegas and they did not like it at all. And after they saw that stuff, they're like, there's no reason we should really let you out. But because this guy came to me, I might consider giving you an opportunity. And at this point, I'm ready. Like, I know that if I'm given an opportunity, I'm going to take full advantage of it this time. I'm not going to, I'm getting released. Like, I'm not scared to get released. Like, if you let me out, I am not screwing up again. I have a daughter to raise and I need to be there for her. My dad was there for me. Why can't I be there for her? Right. And, he comes back to me, about 2 weeks later and they give me, this insane opportunity to get out with a lot of restrictions. I think I had it's never been done. What they gave me has never been done in the Nevada court system from what I understand. I have 65 years suspended. So if I violate, I go to prison for the rest of my life. I had to pay them a certain amount of money every month, which has been fine. No drug use, no alcohol use, drug tests whenever, search my phone, search my house, all that stuff. But I was supposed to wear an ankle monitor for an extended period of time, but they let me go. And, I walked out of there thinking I was going away for the rest of my life. And I ended up walking out of there and I went right to an AA meeting, like within an hour from being out, because I was like, I can't go anywhere where I know I need to go somewhere. And I went right to an AA meeting and it was the best decision I ever made. And I've been in and out of those rooms and in and out of places telling my story and pieces of my story ever since.
So one of the main, I think, culprits of addiction is your environment. It's the people that you're around. And you developed a relationship that I think was a pretty long-standing relationship with a former guest, Britt DiNardo's husband, Frank, who passed away from a fentanyl overdose. What do you remember about him and just about that day when you found out that he had passed?
So Frank was a big advocate for me to get sober throughout like my entire life. He struggled with addiction. I believe the worst parts of it was while I was in prison, but like we used to like box each other. His family knew me, I just remember like we're both from New York. So like we both had the accents and we were both like tattoos and tough guy stuff and big truck type stuff. That's just, we were so similar in those aspects. And there was a group of us, me, Frank, Chris, Travis. We were all just really close friends. Like Frank's kids, are important to us. Brittany and him. See, it's funny because like Brittany and I were never really close because I was gone for so long and they developed their relationship and had children and all that while I was gone. So when I came back, I didn't really develop that friendship with Brittany like I should have, but Frank, the day I got out of prison, Frank, Chris, and Travis were standing at the gate and the cops almost arrested them because they thought they were inmates. They're like, what are you guys doing out here? You can't be out here. And he's like, no, we're waiting for him. We've never been in trouble before. What are you talking about? And they were out there waiting for me and they were there at my wedding and man, it's like, I never really saw him struggle, but he talked to me about it. Like he talked to me about the opiate addiction and how bad it got and how he pulled himself out of it. Like me, I have to go to jail. I cannot get sober unless I go to jail. He pulled himself out of it at one point and he had a great job, a great career. And then who told me? So it just so happened that my ex-wife's sister is, Brittany does her hair. And that's who told me. Like nobody I found out like immediately because Jen knew, like, I guess she had an appointment that day with Brittany. And so she had to cancel with her that day. So I found out like probably before most people did, just on accident. I would have found out through the group of friends that I had, but I didn't think it was real. I'm like, there's no way that happened. Like and for one, like he wasn't just out there randomly doing street drugs. Like the circumstances that occurred were like, he had a tolerance and, what's prescribed really didn't meet that tolerance. So he needed a little help. And, man, and I mean, he's not the only one that I know. I know lots and lots of people that fentanyl is they're putting it in everything. And I still like can't believe that he's gone. I go to his grave like once every couple of months and I talk to him. I pass by it once a week when I pick my daughter up because it's on the same main drag there. And I still like, it's just so weird. That's one dude that I thought would last forever. He was built for it. And, it just blows my mind that he's gone. He was just a stand-up individual. He was one of those guys, like, what are they, those guys you can call at 2 a.m, and like, there's friends that you call to help move, and there's friends you call at 2 a.m, when you need them. And he was that guy. Yeah. Like, if it didn't matter if we were distant, because we've had times where we were distant. If I would call him and I was like, I need you, he would show up, whether he was mad at me or not. And that was the kind of guy he was. And losing someone like that is devastating, man.
Yeah. So I want to wrap with this. There's probably people out there who are struggling to stay sober. And so I want you to look into your camera. I want you to address these people. And, you've battled with this your whole life, but you're 3 years clean now. Mm-hmm. I want you to talk to them about how amazing it is being clean and what sort of things you've implemented in your life to make sure that you never go back.
Okay. I think the most important thing is, I think the cure to addiction is suffering. Like, have you suffered enough? Because every day you're waking up and it's like a new suffer. Like, I remember so many days where like, I felt like I could just not make it to the next day. And I didn't think that just cutting substances out of my life would bring me that. But, the moment that I got sober, and I got sober forced. I went to jail to get sober, and that's what I needed. But, I have today, working in a community of people, all of my friends are sober now. That's a huge thing. Everybody that I knew that was using, if they're continuing to use, I can't have them in my life. I mean, what do you need them for anyway, right? Whether you love them or not, they're just going to bring you back to using. And it's a difficult thing, but when you go to jail, the only people that are there for you are generally your parents. Those people that you're using with don't show up for you. When you're down and out and you need something, those people that they're only there for you when you're up. So when I decided to get sober, the first thing I did was I cut everybody out. Anybody who was using had to go. And it was one of the best choices I ever made. Today I'm around people who want nothing from me but just to see me succeed. I've got a group of guys that I met in AA and some of them I met prior and if I pick up my phone and I say I'm struggling today, they're there for me. And those are the kind of people you associate with. I've been sober for 3 years now. I have split custody of my daughter. She loves every minute I'm with her, and I'm there, present. She knows she has a good dad and tells me every day that she has a good dad. I have a career. I have my own business. I work hard. I don't do anything to harm people anymore. And it feels good. I go to sleep every night and like I sleep soundly. I'm not worried about, the next bag or the next, the next little bit of money or the next come up that I need. My biggest worries are like, what's my daughter got going on tomorrow or how much work do I have tomorrow? Or And it's just such a better life. But you have to surround yourself with people who want the same goals. Because if you're surrounding yourself with people that are using and bringing you down, you're 100% going to end up back in that situation. It's inevitable. You can't. If you hang out with 5 millionaires, you're going to end up being the sixth. If you hang out with 5 people on drugs, you're going to end up being the sixth. It's just how it always is. Suffering but there's stages to it. I know lots of people whose level of suffering was far less than mine, and they were able to get clean. Mine was what they call a very low bottom. Like, I had to go through lots of terrible, terrible things to get sober, but being sober and being reliable is probably the best thing I ever did.
Yeah. Amen. Got emotional listening to you say that. So thank you for coming on the show, my man.
I appreciate you, man. I'm really grateful to be here.